I'm actually having pretty bad whiplash.
Yeah.
Going from Thunderbolts to another simple favor to you, season 5, and then back to this, and I'm like, ugh.
No, this show is not good for my blood pressure. Every week I'm like, it's like this. And then before we started, I was like just sitting there and I was like, I feel like I've lived 100 lifetimes since the last episode. It feels like it was.
I have died every day waiting for you.
It just feels like it was so long ago, and it was 7 days exactly, and I don't know what's going on, but I feel insane. So, yeah. And tomorrow's the Met Gala. Like, we couldn't be doing more opposite things.
Hello, everybody. I'm Will.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is why I'm watching The Last of Us, Season 2, Episode 4.
Day 1. I don't know why.
Yeah.
That's what it says on Wikipedia. If that's not right, obviously, let us know. That's what it says on Wikipedia, and IMDb's not updated. Also, there's only 3 episodes left. This season's short.
Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually really do love this show. Having said that, I'm a little bit fatigued at the moment. I don't know that it's necessarily the show. I really like the show. This was a really good episode. As is often the case, I don't know exactly what I have to say. Like, I don't know that I have a lot to say. We'll see. We're having the conversation in real time. There are a handful of things of note. I'm back.
And he'll be here next week, too.
Yeah, I will. Ellie and Dina are on their trip to Seattle to get revenge for the revenge for the revenge. We had a interesting flashback.
Yes.
To 2018, where we had Jeffrey Wright as Isaac, a sergeant for Fedra, and he was in Seattle with his like group of jarheads or whatever. One of whom was Josh Peck.
I'm sure that Josh Peck just was like, dude, I really love your show. Can I be in it?
I mean, he was great for his one scene. I hated him.
He was a total asshole. And then the guy, his name is Ben Ehlers, I think.
He's got a face.
He's got such a
real face on his face.
And for funsies, if anyone's curious, we are going to pick up season 3 of The Gilded Age, in which he also features. So he's apparently an original character named Burton. And we will have him seemingly in some capacity going forward.
I liked him in 2018. I don't know that I care for him as much in 2029.
He picked a side, and it picked him right back.
He sure did. So it seems that the Fedra was, I forgot. Fedra, I was thinking it was just in Boston or whatever.
No, it was everywhere.
But it's like what was left of the government, basically. So they were trying to maintain order, and I guess they lost their way, and they took away voting rights from people, but then mocked them by calling them voters.
That's a real shit. That's a real dick move.
That's back to my other issue, is I'm just, like, sociopolitically, I'm not in a place
I get it.
for this. It's too frustrating and it's too real, and I'm just like, ugh.
I mean, it's kind of nice watching those guys get blowed up in their own tank.
Sure, but I just feel like I'm watching the near future, and like I feel like I'm watching 2029 potentially. So he's kind of he feels that Fedra has betrayed him, has betrayed its own cause.
Yeah.
And there's like a citizen uprising. Who is WLF?
Yes. Yeah.
Is that how they started, or is that okay?
Yeah. That's what it seems like.
And one of their founding higher-ups is Alana Ubach, which again is this show is like, if we need to bring in the girls and the gays, get Melanie Linsky and then get Alana Ubach. I love her so much. She's such an interesting character. Like, she typically is doing a lot more comedic stuff.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what she's going to be like. Is this the extent of what she's doing on this show, or is there more?
I kind of have a feeling. I mean, I guess it depends. What it feels like is they're kind of setting up like a Melanie Linsky situation 2.0, where it's like, I don't think that Seattle is overrun underground with like festering, cordyceps or whatever, but I do think she's going to meet an end in like a similar way. But she does seem to be the leader.
Or a leader.
Or a leader, at least in 2018, of WLF.
And so Isaac made a deal with them, and he bombed his soldiers and then let Burton choose his side, which meant join us or die.
Or death.
Yes. And he did. And so we then get to 2029. Ellie and
Dina,
there you go, are there. And WLF with Isaac is fighting against the Scars or the Seraphites. Seraphites.
Yeah.
And they're like a religious zealot organization that worship something called the Prophet, which is very Christian coded except female pronouns. And I
like that part.
Sure. I want to like them.
Well,
I want to know. I want to understand.
Yeah. So Will says no.
That I don't. Okay.
Because when we talked about it last week, I was like, they seem peaceful when we're introduced to them.
But then you have these scars.
And he just started shaking his head. And I was like, however, I sort of reject peace in a religion that requires facial mutilation
on children,
especially on children too. And so I was like that is something that some religious cultures do, but it's usually a lot more artful than just like slashes down your cheeks
or just on boys' penises.
Oh God! Speaking of,
it just hurt my feelings.
It hurt my feelings.
This was one of the least titillating peep watches that we had,
and it was like mostly balls. It was like more balls than not.
No, the actor was fantastic. I just was bummed.
We can shout him out. His name is Ryan Masson.
Yeah.
And his character name was Malcolm.
I just felt sad and gross. I didn't like it. Yeah. I didn't like Jeffrey Wright is just Jeffrey writing all over the wall.
He's so good. He so is. But his really intense monologue about how bad he wanted copper pots before the apocalypse and how
Pepper's sister.
And how copper pots. And how he used to go to Williams Sonoma and like someday I'll buy these. And it was literally like the minute that he turned on the gas stove with not a kitchen implement in the general mise en place. I was like, no,
we hadn't even seen the stove. There was footsteps to a knob, and you were like, don't feel good about this. And Will was like, why? And he like turned it on. You're like, oh, okay, fine. I guess he's like cooking. And then you're like, but I don't see any utensils. Yeah, I don't see any cookware.
45 solid seconds before we even caught a glimpse of a pot in the background. And I was like, definitely not.
So yeah, he's torturing one of the Scars because the Scars are fighting WLF because WLF is fighting the Scars because Scars are fighting WLF and forever and ever.
Yeah.
I really liked what the Scars said though.
Yeah, it was really good. He basically was like, every day one of you chooses to become one of us, but none of us ever come to become
one of you.
Yeah.
Because he kept like praying to the Prophet, and Jeffrey Wright is like, when are you going to cut that out?
Yeah.
And it's kind of their whole thing.
I
don't think they're going to.
They're not.
But we don't really know, especially you and me, because Will's played the game, but we don't really know why they're fighting, and it seems like they're just fighting each other.
Yeah.
Like, is there a third party in this? Or I don't know.
I don't know. And I don't know if there are like internal factions within the WLF or anything like that. So I'm not sure.
And Seattle's interesting. It a lot of it is still up. It is overgrown the way that a lot of these are. But
that was interesting though, because Dina was like, I thought that they bombed Seattle. Yeah. And Ellie was like, I guess not this part. And so that was really interesting to me because it looks like most of it wasn't bombed.
Mm-hmm.
So
it just brings me back to my like whole thing from episode 2 where I'm just bummed out with like the Jackson Hole siege because I'm like, you could live in these ruins. Like this is habitable. Why are you killing each other when we could be playing acoustic guitar singing the hits of the 80s?
I mean, true story.
Taking them to truly profound new heights.
Listen, what day when did Slave for You come out? Do we have Slave for You?
What? The Last of Us cover?
No, I'm just like, it doesn't have to just be hits of the 80s. Like, how far into 2003 did we get, you know? No, I agree with you. I do think it's a lot more like, why can't we just all get along, you know? But like, in comparison to something that I have made my feelings about very clear, The Walking Dead, I think this succeeds for me where that failed for me, because even though there are human people fighting each other, I think overall the quality of the storytelling on this show is so much more impressive.
We're very much, in my opinion, at this specific point in a more Walking Dead place with The Last of Us, but you do get wonder, you do get, you know, beauty, sentiment, you know, all those things.
I mean, not for nothing, yes, this scene had like a couple of really horrific things, but it also had Ellie bathed in a shaft of light singing Aha's Take on Me while Dina softly weeps on the other side of the room. I mean, incredible.
I love that song so much. I've always loved it. I will give Magicians. I think something. It must have been featured in something before Magicians, because I do feel like I got that. Maybe it was just the Hidden Citizen cover, because I've played that for like 10 years now.
I think it's just hardwired into my brain from MTV and the early 90s.
In its aha-ness, in its original form, there's like a real kitschy quality to it.
Yeah.
That the way it's utilized The Magicians, and if you haven't seen The Magicians, stop this, go watch that. It's like a 1-2 punch in that show. And then similarly with this, it like when you revisit it lyrically and especially like acoustically, it's like a much heavier, but not in a weighted, just like a poignant.
Yeah.
It's
very emotional.
No better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, that clobbers me every single time.
Also, it's like the shift between the like take on me and then take me on. Like, because it's like in a fight or as a burden. Like both.
It's so good.
Yeah. It's a really, really good song. And that was beautiful. Will says that's directly from the game as well.
And it's apparently, we did watch the blip or the like kind of featurette at the end of the episode, and they said it was easy for like people to miss in the game. Like I think
it might be the type of thing that you can skip. Like you don't have to do
Those
it.
are cutscenes, right? Or cutscenes are just like the story in between the fighting.
Cutscenes are when you are not actively doing anything.
Yeah. Okay. Side quest is what I was thinking.
There you
Sorry.
go. Yeah.
So, yeah, they're trying to find Abby specifically. They found a place for Shimmer. Hopefully Shimmer's doing well. We are unsure how concerned we're meant to be about Shimmer.
Yeah, here's a spoiler I can handle. If you know if Shimmer makes it out of this TV show alive, I want you to tell me.
Oh, I don't. Because then I'm just going to worry about it. Don't. Or find a way to tell just her.
That's fine. You can try to find a way to tell just me. Can you spoiler things in the YouTube comments like you can on Discord?
I don't know.
Well, I can talk about the thing that's apparently in the video game that I don't want to be happening.
Yeah, it is.
Dina's pregnant. So that's why she barfed last week.
Which apparently you did clock. But
I did clock it. I didn't say anything. I clocked it. I was like, it's a little strange that she would throw up. I was like, you would assume she had seen something bad before, but
which she said in this
she did say in this episode, but I was making my peace with it last week because I was like, although like we don't know how long she's been in Jackson Hole, like she could be very like actually protected from, you know, what's outside or whatever. And Ellie, who has seen a lot more bad things, was just like unaffected by it. But no, she is super pregnant and it's Jesse's, and I don't
love pregnancy storylines
in the apocalypse.
Well, kind of period, because it's a very real reality. It is a very real thing that happens to half of the population. And so in
not
that
anymore.
In that sense, it's valid.
Yeah.
But it feels to me sort of like a storytelling. I don't think crutch is the word that I want, but it feels like a long-term solution to a short-term problem. Like it feels like you need something shocking, surprising, dramatic for your very Rachel and Friends, where it's like they needed like the shock and awe of a pregnancy plot.
But then they had this fucking baby.
But then she's out with a baby that they just mostly pretend isn't there anymore.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I mean, because I don't know how long this show is going to go. There's only 2 games, correct?
Yeah.
And I think I'd heard there's going to be, or they're planning on there being 3 seasons.
Well, the third one is greenlit. Will said something about a possible season 4. I'm not sure how long I want it to go either. The issue mostly for me, and I agree with what you said, that it feel like it's just like, well, then you just have this fucking baby. Like, what are you going to do with this baby rolling around? I think
Dina's one of my favorite parts of the season so far. And I'm like, well, I don't want her sidelined because you end up with a Padme in episode 3.
Right.
Like,
yeah. So it's like, I don't want her. I feel like this is going to define the rest of her character, which sucks. And I also, because I don't mind pregnancy storylines in general, although, like, if you are watching any TV show from the 90s and someone starts just feeling kind of sick to their stomach, so I decided to go to the doctor and I'm only anemic, they're fucking pregnant. Mm-hmm. Just take that as read. It has happened on every single TV show I've ever watched. Mm-hmm. It's awful. But in addition to that, I just like, so I don't want her to get sidelined like we were talking about, but it's also, I just feel like it's
Jessie in a weird.
If it puts Jessie in a weird place, I think it's a weird complication. I also think that in a series that so far has explored and done really, really interesting things with lots of female characters, ones from the source material and new ones, this is something they could have changed, in my opinion, and I think I would have been fine with it. Like, it feels like a gendered misstep, in my opinion. Well, unless there is a greater reason for this pregnancy later, which I will allow.
That's what I was going to say, was to that point, the show has done, I mean, you just said, has done a really good job with its interesting female characters.
Yeah.
And, I mean, this is a very, female plot point.
Yeah.
Like, story arc. And so
it feels kind of like a
good writing.
Checkbox.
It can be good writing can accomplish anything.
We'll
see.
It's not dead to me as a plot line.
No.
But it's on notice.
it was, both of us were kind of like, ugh. Because you were even like, what could it be? And I was like, she's fucking pregnant. And
I was like, no, she's not. And Will goes, yeah, she is. And I don't.
I mean, I liked the notion that the Ellie, like, I'm going to be a dad.
That
and,
was
like,
cute.
And the fact that she was kind of including Jessie in the family unit.
Yeah.
And that part, like, I don't know, maybe he'll be kind of thrilled. Like, maybe there'll be this weird little poly unit. Like, I mean, they're in Seattle. They could get crunchy. Like,
well, they are in Seattle, but Jessie is in Wyoming.
Spiritually, they could bring it back to Jacksonville.
I loved all the, like, they were seeing the rainbows in Seattle and, like, the pride mural on the wall and stuff. And they were like, they must be really into, like, hope.
I remember.
It was adorable.
I remember back in college when we were in Key West,
yeah,
and we were like going around, and I asked Miko, I was like, "Do rainbows mean the same thing
in Florida,
in the islands?" Because I was like, it could just be like the beach and sunny, rainbow. And he was like, "No, it's Key West,
super duper gay,
very famously gay."
They find the record store. That's where they sing the song, or where Ellie sings the song, and then they are sort of exploring later. They stumble across a studio. And there's a bunch of...
like 5 wolves were strung up and
disemboweled.
Very theatrically.
Pretty gross, yeah, super gross. That shot of Bella in the behind the scenes thing, just like looking at the guts, it was very funny. While they're in there kind of investigating, it also seems to have happened like semi-recently because like there's still like wet blood on the ground, and the one of them that's dead has a walkie that's going off, and so they are immediately kind of like infiltrated in the room by other wolves that come in and are like, the Seraphites did this, and there's also the like feel her love painted in blood on the wall, which is disgusting. And so Ellie and Dina are kind of trapped in there, and then Ellie kind of goes up, and then someone comes to clear the upstairs, and she gets him in a really good chokehold for a tiny little girl.
And she was giving him everything she had.
He's a whole man.
She was giving it all she got.
And so it gets into like a firefight, and she stabs him in the neck, and Dina kills another one. And then they get out the window and they're running away. They have to go through a tunnel, which leads them into an abandoned subway station, which seems to have potentially been purposely blocked from both ends. It looked kind of like a controlled, like whatever. So they end up getting in there, and they're
like a barricade.
Barricade, yeah. And so they're okay for like a minute, but then the guy at the far end of the tunnel was like, send them around the other end. So some wolves go around the other end and decide, I guess not everybody knows that the flares are like attracting the cordyceps. So they light a bunch of flares and the cordyceps under the train.
Fucking vine.
Yeah. They all start rampaging. All those guys die. And then Ellie and Dina have a really cool...
It was
through the subway cars as the cordyceps are trying to get them, and it's just dead bodies inside the train.
Yeah, in spite of we're only 4 episodes in. I was gonna say, in spite of the siege, we haven't had a lot of cordyceps, but it's only been 4 episodes. But this we got back a little bit more to the like thriller part of the show. Yeah.
So they're going. They get out an emergency exit, and they start to run to get up out of the subway station. And they're in the like rusty turnstile, so it's like not going. And there's one right there, and it goes to bite Dina, and Ellie puts her arm in front and gets bit.
She like mommed her.
Yeah, and so Ellie gets bit again. Luckily on the same arm, so she can just like go get her ex-girlfriend and give her another tattoo, I guess.
Gonna be more tattoo than woman.
Yeah, I know, right? So they end up going into a theater to like sort of rest, and Ellie is all business, and she's like, we gotta do this and this, and we'll board up the window, and Dina's just like pointing a gun at her, and she's like, what the fuck? And she does just have that look on her face like, oh, I forgot to tell my girlfriend that I'm immune.
I've been really blown away by Isabel, and
she's so good.
Did not end this episode.
No, really
she
good.
was really great. Very, very very good actress, but also just very captivating, very dynamic. Yeah. And this show
nice to just like watch her face go
just
through.
Look at her.
Yeah.
And so I really like that because she didn't explain. She just declares she's immune, and Dina responds, "I'm pregnant," and then they have sweet, sweet love.
They do. The hand straight down the pants. Not even a like, I hope she took that monostat because I don't think Ellie's fingers are very clean. All I'm saying. I think I've said plenty. Yeah, and so then they talk about it a little bit more the next morning. Well, and the thing too is that like Ellie doesn't know why she's immune. She only knows she is.
Oh, she doesn't.
No, we know why she is.
Like...
But it's like even Marlene, who is dead now, didn't like Ashley Johnson, whatever, I forget what her like character name was.
Her mother.
Yeah, she lied and said I got bit after I had like gave birth, but she didn't. It was like as it was happening. So nobody knows why she's immune, just that she is. Yeah. And Dina is apparently the only person now besides Tommy that knows now that Joel's dead. So very interesting.
They heard on the radio that, or I guess the scars were attacking. There was like explosions.
There was
and stuff.
like a skirmish going on.
And they went
across
to
town.
The roof and they could see it. And then they have reason, because I guess from what they heard from the radio, they have reason to believe that Abby is in a white building across town. Which
is also potentially fortified, Will said, because that's where they're like taking people to keep them. So that's where we're at going forward for next week. I just think it's like definitely they've already passed like 5 points where I would have been like, this is too big for us. We need to go back. We need to go back and maybe like rally some more resources and stuff.
I think that's actually, I think, and this is personal. This isn't criticism or critique of the show. This is my personal assessment of it. But I think I actually don't like the plot, but I like the world. Like,
sure.
Because I find this like revenge plot to be annoying, but I'm just enjoying the excuse for the world building.
Sure.
And for like the dystopian like core porn, whatever.
Yeah.
Like I think that and the way that the show does find ways to mine its content for hope.
Yeah.
You know, glimpses of beauty.
It's
strawberries.
Also, yeah, I also really do love, because it's like Dina and Ellie are...
And some fabulous day players.
Really good day players. Dina and Ellie are like mostly the youngest characters that we like know. Like obviously Tommy's son is younger, but he's not like a character. So that's really interesting to me because they were both born after the like end of the world. They were born
into this world.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like even a character like Burton. So like let's say you had to be 18 to like join Fedra or whatever. If that was in 2018, he would have only been 3 when the world ended. So it's like that whole truck full of dudes that are in there with Jeffrey Wright, none of them remember a before time, you know? And I think that's what's really interesting. But the issue there is it's like they should have more of a grasp on the before time because they are enforcing the law. But it's like darling when Ellie and Dina don't know what all the pride rainbows mean. Like,
it reminds me of that like fascinating it's not like one specific conversation, but like thing that Fury Road did where when the brides would be talking about like the satellites, and I forget what she called them. I guess she called them stars, but she was like, stars bring shows to people. And she's it's just a different, in a very mythic, like a very ancient mythological way, but using the proper terminology. And I was like, I like that note, like how quickly, like 2 or 3 generations, you would lose context of this. But I like the notion that like that the word show stayed, but it's like she doesn't quite understand what a show is, but she knows that each person had a show. And it's like that kind of stuff I love. That kind of like whimsy, that kind of world building.
But that's why it's like you can tell in that, even just because they hardly had any dialogue, but that when Jeffrey Wright is standing across from Alana Ubach and they basically are just like having this wordless conversation, and you can just tell that it's like, we both remember what it was like, and it was not this, and this is wrong, and we both know it's wrong, and we're gonna explode this truck full of dudes right now because this is wrong. And I think we should take some inspiration from that.
Explode more trucks full of dudes.
Just saying. There was one.
Be careful, we're putting this online.
So it's recently there was an episode of Summer House where, or maybe it was like on Southern Charm, but Paige was like, when men have quality time together, wars ensue. So I'm against it. And I was just like, preach.
I actually think something of note is that Dina told Ellie that she, when she was younger, told her mother that she liked boys and girls, and her mother was like, stick with boys.
You definitely don't, I
don't know how I feel about that. I guess that because we also went through it a little bit with Bart Bass, Seth, maybe, where he was like homophobic against Ellie and Dina, and I guess that makes sense. I guess it makes sense. I don't know why I'm like, gonna be so.
In world, I do understand that like the population has been more than decimated. You have to be worrying about replacing the population in order to keep humanity. It's not like it is in the real world right now. We don't need to be, we're good. We've got enough people. But the thing is like, they do need to be worried about that. So it's like, if it was, and it obviously was post-apocalypse, and Dina's mom was like, you need to be with a man. But I do think it was more of like a religious thing.
Yeah. Because that's what I was going to say. I was like, something like homophobia is, in my opinion, like wholly learned behavior. It serves a social and political purpose. And so there's part of me where I'm like, weren't we far enough in the future? But it's the 2003. I mean, we were making strides, but then again, I mean, we're losing it now. So I'm trying. I'm like, am I being too altruistic? Am I being too optimistic about the future, or about like what would happen if we had like a great leveling?
Yeah, that's the issue for me. Is it's like, first of all, you can't guarantee that all the homophobes are going to get eaten by the cordyceps first. You know,
because we're not getting blatant, like, evangelical propaganda in this show. We're getting, like I said, the Seraphites, but that's sort of like a version of a version. And so I'm having this conversation for fun. This is not a string that I really feel like needs being pulled for the show. But
the thing for me is that if you take away the like population replacement part of it, for me, I'm sort of like, the world is over. What do you care who I'm having sex with?
And it's also different, you know? And I think that that's part of Seattle's purpose in the story, is because I think it's believable that Jackson Hole would be more conservative.
Well, sure.
And that those roots would be deep.
Especially if it was mostly people that survived from like around the area and like congregated.
So,
but nobody else besides Seth seemed to have a problem with it, so.
And he came around.
Yeah.
We'll see. I don't know. It's interesting. I'm just musing.
Yeah.
Literally just
musing. And, well, that's the thing that's like, because, okay, so it's like, obviously we are so well into the future now, like, it's 2029 in the show, but you do have to remember that, like, political opinions arrested in 2003, and then there was, like, no more anything to speak of, So that's kind of where I'm at.
So, all right, okay.
Yeah.
That's what that noise was.
Pretty good. I will say, I forgot to mention it last week, but in the opening credits now that Joel's dead, only the little Ellie fungus, like, grows up in the credits and not the Joel one next to her. Made me sad last week.
So, okay, well, we'll be back.
Yeah, but only 3 episodes left, so...
I think we're getting Nora next week, the preview. I'm excited. I like Patty Gabrielle.
She's great.
And she was, like, on an elevator doing a jumpy thing, so it looked fun.
Yeah, let's do a jumpy thing. Bye!